The moment Michael Barrett saw his wife's trainer slide his hands down her waist and linger just a second too long, 20 years of Special Forces discipline was all that kept him from reacting. At 51, Michael had built his life on the quiet strength that came from surviving real battles, the kind that taught him to observe before acting. As Ryan flexed his muscled physique and smirked toward Michael, the whispered words carried across the gym. "Your husband doesn't know what he owns in more ways than one." The crowd recording on their phones expected confrontation, not knowing they were about to witness a masterclass in justice from the gym's anonymous owner. When those who mistake patience for weakness challenge a master strategist, the lesson comes swiftly, and the cameras catch every moment of the fall. Michael Barrett rose at 5:15 a.m., the same time he'd awakened for 22 years in Special Forces. Old habits remained useful in civilian life. Discipline and routine had helped him build a business empire that included real estate, tech investments, and the Iron Pulse gym chain across Texas. He preferred anonymity in his businesses, observing operations without employees knowing who signed their paychecks. His Austin home office walls held few military mementos, just a framed Special Forces insignia and a single challenge coin from his final deployment. Michael had never been one to dwell on the past or showcase his accomplishments. Results spoke for themselves. The security feed from Iron Pulse's flagship location downtown cycled through on his monitor, a daily review habit. He paused when he noticed Laura entering at 6:30 a.m., an hour earlier than her usual Thursday session with Ryan, the gym's popular personal trainer. Something in her body language caught his attention, a slightly furtive glance around the entrance, the way she adjusted her new designer workout clothes. 20 years of reading environments for threats had made observation second nature. His phone rang. "Barrett," he answered. "Morning, sir," said Marcus, his operations manager. "Quarterly reports are ready for review. Should I send them through now?" "Yes, but remove my name from all the materials before distribution to location managers. Same protocol as always." "Understood," remaining the invisible owner. Marcus chuckled. "Most bosses want their name on everything. I prefer to see how people behave when they don't know who's watching." Michael ended the call and headed downstairs. Laura was preparing coffee in their kitchen, her blonde hair pulled into a perfect ponytail, her makeup subtle but flawless for a gym session. "You're up early," Michael commented, accepting the coffee she handed him. "Ryan thinks morning sessions will give better results," she said, not quite meeting his eyes. "The gym's quieter then." Michael nodded. "I might stop by sometime to see your progress." "Oh, you'd be bored," Laura said quickly, "and you're always so busy with the investment portfolio." 7 years of marriage had taught Michael her patterns. They'd met at a charity gala. He'd been drawn to her vivacity, she to his quiet confidence and stability. Lately, though, something had shifted. The new workout clothes, the changed schedules, the way her phone now remained face down on tables and chimed with notifications she ignored when he was nearby. "How's the training going?" he asked casually. "Great, Ryan's the best." Her smile seemed genuine, but there was something performative in it. "He says I'm his most dedicated client." I bet he does, Michael thought, but simply nodded. "Good. I'm glad you found someone who keeps you motivated." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then turned it face down again. "Just my sister. She wants to meet for lunch next week." Michael finished his coffee. "I have meetings downtown today. Might run late." "No problem. I have that charity committee thing tonight anyway." After Laura left for her session, Michael changed his plans. Instead of heading to his office, he drove to Iron Pulse Gym. Time for some personal reconnaissance. The benefit of being the anonymous owner was that he could walk in without causing a stir. He nodded to the front desk staff, who knew him only as an occasional member, and positioned himself in the free weight area with a clear line of sight to the private training space. Laura was laughing as Ryan demonstrated a movement, his hands lingering on her waist longer than any professional correction required. The easy familiarity between them spoke of a relationship beyond trainer and client. Ryan's watch, a Rolex that would cost 3 months of a trainer's salary, caught the light as he leaned close to say something that made Laura giggle and playfully push his chest. Michael observed without expression, his military training allowing him to compartmentalize the emotional response building beneath his calm exterior. This wasn't conclusive evidence, but it was enough to warrant further investigation. He'd survived 2 decades in special forces by trusting his instincts while verifying with facts. He left the gym unnoticed, pulling out his phone as he reached his car. He scrolled to a contact he hadn't called in years. "James Calloway Investigations," answered a gruff voice. "James, it's Michael Barrett." A pause. "Mike. Hell, been what, 5 years? How's civilian life treating you?" "Generally well, but I find myself in need of your particular skills." Military intelligence to private investigation wasn't much of a leap. "What do you need?" Michael watched Laura's Range Rover pull out of the parking lot, turning opposite the direction of their home. "I need surveillance, discreet but thorough, and a financial investigation into one of my employees. Text me the details. When can you meet?" "Today. The sooner the better." As he ended the call, Michael felt the familiar calm focus that had served him through countless operations. Information before action. Always gather intelligence first. The veteran-owned coffee shop near the Capitol building offered privacy and understanding. James Calloway hadn't changed much, still built like a tank, with observant eyes that missed nothing. His laptop and a small stack of manila folders sat on the table between them. "So," James said, after they'd exchanged brief updates on mutual acquaintances, "personal or business?" "Both, potentially." Michael kept his voice even. "My wife has been training with a personal trainer at Iron Pulse Gym for the past 6 months, Ryan Mercer. Recently, I've noticed changes in her behavior, and their interaction seems overly familiar." James nodded, not offering unnecessary sympathy. He understood the military mindset: address the situation, don't dwell on the emotions. "And the business angle?" he asked. "I own Iron Pulse, anonymously. Mercer doesn't know he works for me." Michael slid a flash drive across the table. "That contains his employment records, schedule, and client list." James raised an eyebrow. "Anonymous ownership. Smart for situations exactly like this." "I want confirmation of any inappropriate relationship, times, locations, photographs, standard package." "And the financial investigation?" Michael's eyes narrowed slightly. "His visible lifestyle exceeds what his salary should support. New Rolex, designer clothes. I want to know if he's skimming from the business." James typed notes into his laptop. "Full surveillance on both targets, financial audit trail. Timeline? I need preliminary findings within a week. Whatever you find, I want ironclad documentation that would stand up in court." "Understood." James studied his old friend's face. "You're handling this very methodically." "Is there another way to handle betrayal?" Michael asked, his voice betraying no emotion. "Most men would be breaking things by now." A ghost of a smile touched Michael's lips. "Breaking things rarely improves tactical position. Information first, then strategic action." Same old Mike. James nodded with approval. I'll start immediately. Daily updates by encrypted text. As they parted, Michael returned to his regular schedule. During the next 3 days, he maintained perfect normalcy with Laura, while methodically examining the gym's financial records at night after she'd gone to bed. In his home office, Michael noted discrepancies that grew more concerning with each spreadsheet. Cash payment reconciliations were off by over $4,000 last month alone. Personal training sessions had been logged but never entered into the payment system. Ryan's client list showed the highest irregularity rate. His secure phone buzzed with a text from James. Preliminary confirmation. Meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m., Barton Creek Trail. Michael deleted the message and continued his financial analysis. He sent a carefully worded email to Diane Reynolds, the gym's accountant, requesting clarification on several discrepancies without revealing his ownership. Her response came within hours. Mr. Barrett, as the financial consultant you hired, I should mention I've noticed these patterns for months. Management hasn't taken my concerns seriously. Would you like me to prepare a comprehensive report? He sent a single-word reply, yes. The next morning, Michael parked at the trailhead by Barton Creek. James was already waiting in his nondescript SUV. He handed Michael a sealed envelope. 3 meetings outside scheduled training this week, James reported. Yet Tuesday afternoon, West 6th Street Royale Hotel. Wednesday lunch at a cafe in South Congress. This morning, breakfast at her supposed sister meeting. Michael examined the photos without changing expression. Laura and Ryan embracing in the hotel parking lot, holding hands across a restaurant table. His wife laughing as Ryan kissed her neck outside a cafe. The financial angle? Michael asked, his voice steady. Regular cash deposits to his account, never matching paychecks. Always after private training sessions with specific clients, mostly married women. He's running some kind of scheme, possibly charging sessions off books. Michael nodded. Continue surveillance. I need comprehensive documentation. There's more. James handed him a small audio recorder. Gym locker room conversation yesterday. Thought you should hear it. Michael pressed play. Ryan's voice came through clearly. Got her wrapped around my finger. She thinks we have a future. A laugh. Meanwhile, her husband has no idea what's happening in his own house. These older guys, man. All money, no clue. Another voice. You're playing with fire, bro. What if he finds out? That's stiff. Please. Military types are all routine, no imagination. By the time he figures it out, I'll be long gone, with a nice chunk of cash and maybe a divorce settlement share. Michael clicked off the recording, his expression unchanged. Keep following them. I want to know everything, where they meet, what they say, what they spend. And then? Then I'll decide how to proceed. Michael's voice was calm, but his eyes had hardened to flint. Tactically. Over the next week, Michael lived 2 separate lives, the oblivious husband at home and the methodical investigator with James. The financial audit from Diane confirmed his suspicions. Ryan had embezzled nearly $87,000 through a sophisticated skimming operation, targeting wealthy clients who paid in cash for special training sessions. The surveillance photos grew more damning. Hotel visits, intimate dinners, text messages James had intercepted through Laura's cloud backup were explicit and mocking. Michael absorbed it all with the detachment he'd learned in combat, processing information without letting emotion cloud judgment. He was building his strategy, waiting for the right moment to act. That moment came sooner than expected when he arrived home early one afternoon and heard Laura's voice from the backyard patio. He doesn't suspect a thing, she laughed into her phone. too busy with his businesses to notice what's happening right under his nose. Michael stood silently by the open patio door. "I know, it's almost too easy," she continued. "He thinks I'm at my sister's this weekend, but I've already packed for our trip." A pause, then. "Ryan, stop. Yes, he's good to me, but good gets boring. I need exciting, and he's just old." Reliable, but old. Michael stepped away silently, the final confirmation settling like a cold weight. This wasn't just betrayal, it was contempt. That changed everything. He texted James, "Compile everything. Meet me at my attorney's office tomorrow morning." Then he called his lawyer. "David, I need divorce papers prepared by tomorrow morning, and I'll need you to bring them to a specific location when I call. I'm also terminating an employee for embezzlement. I'll need those documents as well." He ended the call and stared at the wedding photo on the wall, feeling not rage, but a cold, clarifying purpose. Special forces had taught him that when ambushed, the response determined survival. He would respond with precision and finality. Michael sat across from David Harmon, his attorney of 15 years, in the law firm's glass-walled conference room. Between them lay 2 stacks of documents, divorce papers, and employee termination forms. James Calloway stood by the window, his investigative report open on a tablet. "The evidence is comprehensive," David said, adjusting his glasses. "The affair has been documented over 6 weeks with photographic evidence, hotel receipts, text message records. The embezzlement is equally well documented." "Walk me through the financials again," Michael said. James stepped forward. Mercer's scheme was actually quite sophisticated. He'd schedule private sessions with wealthy clients, primarily married women, and offer them a cash discount to keep the sessions off the books. The clients thought they were getting a deal. Instead, he pocketed the money entirely. "Total amount?" Michael asked. $87,420 over 18 months, David replied. The forensic accountant confirmed it through client interviews and bank record analysis. "It's enough for criminal charges if you want to pursue that route." "Let's hold that in reserve," Michael said. "What about the divorce strategy?" David tapped the papers before him. "Texas is a no-fault state, but the infidelity documentation strengthens our position regarding asset division. Given the duration of your marriage and the prenuptial agreement, Laura's claim to your business assets is limited. The evidence of her affair further weakens any claim beyond the prenup terms." Michael nodded. "Timeline for finalization?" "Minimum 60 days after filing, but given the evidence, I don't anticipate successful challenges." Michael studied the hotel photos dispassionately. Laura and Ryan entering the West 6th Street Royale. The timestamp showing a 3-hour stay during what was supposedly a charity committee meeting. "And this is all admissible?" he asked. "Completely," James confirmed. "Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings. The surveillance was conducted in public spaces. The financial audit was authorized by you as the business owner." Michael made his decision. "I want to handle this tomorrow. Laura told me she's meeting her sister for breakfast, but surveillance confirms she's meeting Ryan at the gym at 7:30 a.m. "You want me to serve the papers there?" David asked, surprised. "No, I want you to bring them there after I confront them both. I'll text you when to arrive." David and James exchanged glances. "Mike," James said carefully, "what exactly are you planning?" "A tactical response appropriate to the situation." Michael's voice remained calm. "No violence, no loss of control, just consequences delivered where the violations occurred." "The gym is your property," David reminded him. "You have every legal right to be there and to terminate an employee stealing from you." "I'm aware." Michael gathered the photos into a folder. James, I need you present as witness to the evidence presentation. David, be ready with the papers when I text. I'll have the gym manager prepared with the termination documents. And after? James asked. And after I rebuild. Michael stood, signaling the end of the meeting. One last thing. I want security personnel on standby. Not for me, for them. That evening, Michael maintained his usual routine at home. He and Laura ate dinner together, discussed mundane topics, and watched a documentary about marine life. To anyone observing, it would appear to be an ordinary evening for a long-married couple. Only when Laura mentioned her breakfast with Jessica did Michael's eyes briefly harden before he controlled his expression. Have a good time, he said. I've got an early meeting myself. Later, alone in his study, Michael called Marcus, his operations manager. I need something unusual tomorrow morning, he began. I'll be coming to the downtown location at 7:15 a.m. The manager needs to be ready with termination papers for Ryan Mercer. The trainer? What's happened? Marcus asked. Financial audit confirmed he's been stealing from us. Nearly $90,000. Jesus, should we call the police? Not yet. I want to handle this personally first. You're going to reveal yourself as the owner? Marcus sounded surprised. Yes. It's time for the invisible owner to become visible. Have security on standby, but discreet. And Marcus, this stays between us until tomorrow. Understood, sir. Michael ended the call and opened his safe, removing a small recording device. He transferred selected audio files from James's surveillance, conversations between Laura and Ryan mocking him, discussing their plans, laughing about his ignorance. Next, he prepared a USB drive with financial evidence from the audit. Each step methodical, each decision strategic. This wasn't about emotion. It was about justice and consequences. Before bed, he sent one final text to James and David. 7:30 a.m. Iron Pulse downtown location. Be ready. Michael slept soundly, the deep rest of a man who has made his decision and accepted all possible outcomes. When his alarm sounded at 5:15 a.m., he rose with the same disciplined calm he'd maintained through countless missions. In his private gym in the basement, he performed a brief, focused workout, not from vanity, but from the need for physical clarity. The routines from his military days centered him, controlled the adrenaline that naturally came before conflict. He showered, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that subtly emphasized his still powerful build, and selected a watch Laura had given him on their 5th anniversary. A final irony. As he drove toward downtown Austin in the early morning light, Michael focused on his objectives with military precision. Document the betrayal, expose the theft, deliver consequences, establish new boundaries. Through his windshield, he could see Iron Pulse Gym's distinctive blue signage. In the parking lot, he noted Laura's Range Rover already present. James's nondescript vehicle was positioned with a clear view of the entrance. David's Tesla would arrive when summoned. Michael parked, straightened his tie, and walked toward the entrance with measured steps. The invisible owner was about to reveal himself, and nothing would be the same after today. Michael paused at the gym entrance, taking a moment to survey the environment through the glass doors. Early morning clients worked out in the main area, young professionals before office hours, dedicated fitness enthusiasts establishing routines, normal people with normal lives. His gaze shifted to the private training area where Ryan typically worked with his exclusive clients. There they were, Laura in her new designer workout clothes, laughing as Ryan demonstrated a movement, standing closer than any professional trainer should. Michael's phone vibrated with a text from James. In position. Northeast corner of parking lot. Ready when you are. He texted back a single word. Proceed. Inside, Michael nodded to the front desk staff, who recognized him as an occasional member. The manager, Elise Chen, approached immediately, her expression professionally neutral despite knowing what was about to happen. "Mr. Barrett," she said quietly, "everything is prepared as requested." "The documents?" "In my office. Security is on standby, plainclothes positioned as members." "Good. Stay close, but give me space for the initial conversation." Michael moved through the gym with unhurried confidence, acknowledging a few regular members with brief nods. He positioned himself near the water station with a clear view of Ryan and Laura. Ryan spotted him first. A flash of annoyance crossed the trainer's face at the interruption before he plastered on his professional smile. "Good morning, sir," Ryan called. "Laura and I are just finishing up her session." Michael approached slowly, his posture relaxed but alert. "Don't mind me, please. Continue." Laura turned, surprise and then alarm flickering across her features. "Michael, what are you doing here? I thought you had meetings all morning." "Change of plans." Michael's voice remained conversational. "I wanted to see these training sessions you've been so enthusiastic about." Ryan stepped forward slightly, unconsciously positioning himself between Michael and Laura. "I was just showing Laura some advanced core techniques. She's made incredible progress." "I'm sure she has." Michael's slight emphasis was nearly imperceptible. "You must be an exceptional trainer to achieve such results." Something in Michael's tone made Ryan's smile falter momentarily before he recovered. "Well, it's about dedication. Laura puts in the work." "And the time," Michael added mildly. "All those extra sessions must really add up." Laura stepped forward quickly. "Michael, what's going on? Why are you really here?" "Observation." Michael met her gaze directly. "It's something Special Forces taught me. Watch before acting. Gather intelligence before engaging." The color drained slightly from Laura's face. "What are you talking about?" Ryan's smile hardened as he moved closer to Michael, using his height and muscled physique in a subtle intimidation tactic. "Look, sir, if you have concerns about your wife's training program, I'm happy to discuss them. But maybe this isn't the place." "On the contrary," Michael interrupted calmly, "this is exactly the right place for this conversation." He noticed several members slowing their workouts to observe the developing tension. One or two had phones casually positioned for recording, the modern instinct to document conflict. Perfect. Ryan's body language shifted to more aggressive posturing, chest expanded, shoulders back, a textbook dominance display. "Sir, with all due respect, maybe you should hit the treadmill while the real men handle the heavy lifting." The crude attempt at emasculation hung in the air. Several nearby members exchanged glances, expecting the older man to back down from the muscled trainer. Michael simply smiled, a small, controlled expression that never reached his eyes. "Ryan, I've been meaning to ask about your financial procedures for private training sessions." The abrupt topic change visibly startled the trainer. "My what?" "Your financial procedures." Michael's voice remained conversational. "Specifically, the discrepancy between sessions conducted and payments recorded." Ryan's expression flickered between confusion and the first hints of alarm. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Who exactly are you?" "He's my husband," Laura cut in, attempting to regain control of the situation. "And Michael, this is inappropriate. Whatever you're implying—" "I'm not implying anything," Michael interrupted, his calm unbroken. "I'm stating facts, facts supported by evidence." He turned back to Ryan, "Like the fact that you've been conducting off-book training sessions and pocketing the cash. Nearly $90,000 worth." The gym had grown quieter, more members openly watching now. Ryan's face hardened. "That's a serious accusation," he said, voice lower. "You should be careful throwing around claims like that." "I'm always careful," Michael replied. "Careful and thorough." Ryan stepped closer, deliberately entering Michael's personal space. "Look, old man, I don't know what your problem is. 22 years in Special Forces taught me to identify problems quite accurately." Michael didn't move back an inch. "And to prepare appropriate responses." The mention of Special Forces caused a subtle reassessment in Ryan's eyes, but he'd committed to his intimidation strategy. Several phones were now openly recording as he placed a hand on Michael's chest, pushing slightly. "Why don't you take your paranoid accusations somewhere else before you embarrass yourself?" Michael looked down at Ryan's hand, then back to his face. "I'd suggest you remove your hand." "Or what?" Ryan smirked, pushing a little harder. Michael moved with the economical precision that characterized Special Forces close-quarters training, a simple sidestep and wrist control that left Ryan off balance without appearing aggressive to observers. "Or you'll continue demonstrating poor judgment," Michael finished calmly. Ryan recovered, face flushing with anger and embarrassment. "You're asking for it, old man." He lunged forward with a more aggressive shove. Michael deflected it with minimal movement, causing Ryan to stumble past him. The trainer's momentum carried him into a weight rack with a loud clatter. The gym was completely silent now, all pretense of normal workouts abandoned. Laura stood frozen, eyes wide with shock. 22 years of combat training emphasizes efficiency, Michael commented. "Would you like to try again, or shall we discuss the real issue here?" Ryan straightened, fury replacing calculation. "You think you know something? You don't know anything." He charged forward again. This time, Michael used a simple redirection technique that left Ryan sprawled on the floor mat, the trainer's superior size and strength rendered irrelevant by precise technique. "Michael, stop this!" Laura finally found her voice, rushing forward. "This is insane. What are you doing?" "Addressing a situation that needed addressing," Michael replied evenly. "Both personal and professional." Ryan scrambled to his feet, his carefully cultivated image of physical dominance shattered. "What the hell are you talking about, professional?" On cue, James Calloway appeared at the edge of the gathered crowd, manila folder in hand. "I believe he's referring to this, Mr. Mercer." "Who the hell are you?" Ryan demanded. "James Calloway, private investigator." James handed the folder to Michael. "Former military intelligence. Everything's documented as requested, Mr. Barrett." The use of Michael's name with such deference caused a ripple of confusion among the onlookers. Laura's expression shifted from indignation to growing alarm. "Michael, please," she said, lowering her voice. "Whatever you think is happening, we can discuss this privately. This public scene is unnecessary." "Privacy wasn't your concern during your hotel visits with Ryan," Michael replied, opening the folder. "Or during your phone conversations mocking our marriage." The blood drained from Laura's face. "What are you talking about? What hotel visits?" Michael removed several photographs and held them where both Laura and Ryan could see them clearly. "Tuesday afternoon, West 6th Street, Royale Hotel. Last Thursday, extended stay on Congress. Yesterday morning, when you were supposedly having breakfast with your sister." Laura's denial died on her lips as she saw the irrefutable evidence, herself and Ryan embracing in parking lots, entering hotel rooms, holding hands across restaurant tables. These must be doctored," she stammered. "Who is this man? What are you doing?" James Calloway, private investigator, James repeated. Former military intelligence. These are undoctored surveillance photographs from the past 3 weeks. Ryan had gone very still, his eyes fixed on the photos. You had us followed. That's crazy. That's standard procedure when investigating embezzlement and potential litigation matters, Michael cut in smoothly. The word embezzlement hit Ryan like a physical blow. What did you say? Michael looked directly at him. The affair is only part of this, Ryan. Should we discuss the money next? The gym manager, Elise, stepped forward with a tablet. Mr. Barrett, I have the financial documentation you requested. Barrett? Ryan repeated, confusion clear on his face. Wait, you're… Michael Barrett, Michael confirmed. Founder and owner of Iron Pulse Gym, your employer. The revelation sent a visible shockwave through the watching crowd. Ryan's face drained of color entirely. That's not possible, he whispered. The owner is some investment group. Barrett Holdings is the investment group, Michael explained. I prefer to remain anonymous in my businesses. It allows me to observe operations more accurately. He turned to Elise. Please bring the termination documents now. As she hurried to her office, Laura grabbed Michael's arm. Michael, please, this is all a misunderstanding. You can't believe. The evidence speaks for itself, Michael replied, gently removing her hand. As does the recording of you describing me as old and boring to your lover yesterday. Before Laura could respond, Michael pressed play on a small device. Her voice filled the suddenly silent gym. He's good to me, but good gets boring. I need exciting, and he's just… old. Reliable, but old. Laura's face crumpled as her own words exposed her contempt. The watching crowd's sympathy visibly shifted, murmurs of disapproval rippling through the onlookers. Ryan, desperate to salvage something, attempted one last denial. The financial accusations are ridiculous. You can't prove anything. Elise returned with a tablet displaying spreadsheets and client statements. The forensic accountant's report disagrees. Every missing dollar is documented, along with timestamps that coincide perfectly with your private training sessions. Michael turned to address her formally. As owner, I'm terminating Ryan Mercer's employment effective immediately. Please escort him to clear his locker while security changes the access codes. 2 plainclothes security personnel materialized from the crowd, positioning themselves on either side of Ryan. This isn't over, Ryan snarled as he was led away. You'll regret this. I doubt that very much, Michael replied evenly. He turned back to Laura, whose desperate attempts to reach the exit were blocked by James Calloway's imposing presence. Michael's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it and nodded to James. It's time for the final step. The main floor of Iron Pulse Gym had transformed into an impromptu arena. Members formed a loose circle, many openly recording with phones. Some had abandoned all pretense of workouts, standing with water bottles and towels draped over shoulders, witnesses to the unfolding drama. David Harmon, Michael's attorney, entered through the main doors, carrying a leather portfolio. His expression was professionally neutral as he approached Michael. The documents are ready, he said quietly. Laura's eyes fixed on the portfolio, realization dawning. Michael, no, please. We can talk about this privately. This public humiliation isn't necessary. Privacy wasn't a concern when you mocked our marriage to Ryan, Michael replied evenly. Let me play you the recording. Before she could protest, he pressed play on the small device again. Laura's voice echoed through the quiet gym. He doesn't suspect a thing. too busy with his businesses to notice what's happening right under his nose. I know, it's almost too easy. He thinks I'm at my sister's this weekend, but I've already packed for our trip. Then Ryan's voice. By next month, we'll have enough saved to make our move. Between what I've been putting aside and what you'll get in the divorce. Laura lunged for the device, but Michael simply raised it out of reach. There are hours more. Quite comprehensive. This is cruel, she hissed, tears forming. I made a mistake. We can work through this. In light of the evidence presented, Michael said formally, I'm filing for divorce on grounds of infidelity. David opened the portfolio, revealing the legal documents. Mrs. Barrett, these papers outline the dissolution of marriage. The terms adhere to your prenuptial agreement with provisions regarding the recent discovery of infidelity. Laura's face shifted from pleading to cold calculation. You won't get away with this public humiliation. I'll take you for everything. The prenup is quite clear, David interrupted smoothly. Documented infidelity substantially limits claims beyond the originally agreed terms. Furthermore, the public nature of this confrontation was not pre-planned, but resulted from your decision to conduct your affair at your husband's place of business. Michael signed the papers and handed the pen to Laura. Your belongings will be packed and sent to your sister's, where you claim to be going this weekend. My attorney will handle all communication going forward. For a moment, Laura stood frozen, the reality of her situation fully dawning. The carefully constructed double life had collapsed completely. The watching crowd, many of whom were regular members who had seen her training with Ryan for months, now viewed her through the lens of exposed deception. You'll regret this, she whispered, echoing Ryan's threat. I already regret the 7 years invested in a marriage built on lies, Michael replied quietly. But I won't regret establishing consequences. Laura's composure finally broke. With a strangled sob, she pushed past David and fled toward the exit, the whispers of the crowd following her retreat. As the main doors closed behind her, the gym remained unnaturally quiet. Michael turned to address those still watching. I apologize for the disruption to your morning routines, he said, his voice carrying easily in the silence. Iron Pulse will remain open with normal operations. Thank you for your patience. A slow ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Several members approached cautiously. Mr. Barrett, said an older gentleman Michael recognized as a regular, I've been coming here for 3 years. Had no idea you were the owner. That's by design, Michael replied. I prefer to observe how places really operate. Well, for what it's worth, the man continued, extending his hand. What I just saw took guts and class. No shouting, no violence, just facts and consequences. Michael shook his hand with a nod of acknowledgement. Elise approached, visibly shaken, but professional. Mr. Barrett, we had no idea you were the owner. We would have addressed the discrepancies sooner if we'd known. Anonymity has its advantages, Michael said. It shows you how things truly operate. Now we'll make this right. As the crowd dispersed and regular gym activities slowly resumed, Michael noted several members already sharing videos on their phones. The public exposure was just beginning for Laura and Ryan, a natural consequence of their choices. James approached, expression sober. Clean execution, Mike, just like the old days. Except no one died, Michael replied dryly. You okay? James asked quietly. Michael considered the question seriously. I will be. The mission is complete, but the cleanup operation is just beginning. David joined them, tucking the signed divorce papers into his portfolio. Laura will likely regroup and consult an attorney. She may attempt to challenge the prenup or claim emotional distress. "Let her try," Michael said. "We have the facts on our side." As they walked toward the exit, Michael paused to look back at the gym, his gym, where both his marriage and his sense of security had unraveled, yet he felt no regret for his actions, only a sense of necessary closure. Outside, the morning sun had fully risen over Austin, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Laura's Range Rover was gone. Ryan was being escorted to his car by security, a box of personal items in his arms, his face a mask of humiliation and rage. "What now?" James asked, as they reached Michael's car. "Now I rebuild," Michael said, unlocking the door. This was never about revenge. It was about consequences and clearing the path forward. "If you need anything," James began. "I'll call," Michael assured him. "Thank you both for your assistance today." As James and David departed, Michael sat in his car for a moment, watching the gym's entrance. Members were still arriving, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. Life continued its forward momentum, as it always did after crisis. He started the engine and drove toward his office downtown. There would be practical matters to attend to, changing security codes at the house, notifying financial institutions, updating legal documents. The methodical work would help maintain his focus. His phone rang through the car's speaker system. Marcus, his operations manager. "Mr. Barrett, I've been informed about what happened at the downtown location," Marcus said. "Do you want security at your residence as well?" "Yes, for the next few days, and have it change all the system passwords immediately." "Already done, sir." "And sir, I'm sorry about your personal situation." Michael appreciated the simple acknowledgement without unnecessary sympathy. "Thank you, Marcus. Let's focus on moving forward. Set up a company-wide management meeting for tomorrow. It's time the invisible owner became more visible." As he ended the call, Michael felt a curious sense of lightness. The weight of suspicion and uncertainty had been replaced by the clarity of action and consequence. The path ahead would be challenging but clean. No more deception clouding his vision. 3 days after the confrontation at Iron Pulse Gym, Michael sat in his home office reviewing the fallout. The videos had spread across Austin's social media circles, creating exactly the kind of exposure Laura and Ryan had feared most. Their affair and Ryan's embezzlement were now public knowledge, their reputations in tatters. Michael had moved methodically through the practical aspects of separation, changing locks, securing accounts, establishing new routines. The military discipline that had defined his career now guided his personal reconstruction. His phone buzzed with a text from David. "Laura has retained counsel, claims emotional distress and public humiliation, wants to challenge prenup." Michael wasn't surprised. It was a predictable counterattack, one he'd anticipated when planning the confrontation. "Proceed as discussed," he texted back. "No settlement offers." He turned back to his computer, reviewing the changes being implemented across the Iron Pulse chain. The anonymous owner was now known to all managers and staff, creating a new culture of accountability. The financial oversight systems had been strengthened to prevent future embezzlement. When his doorbell rang, Michael checked the security camera feed before answering. James Calloway stood on the porch, a file folder tucked under his arm. "New developments," James said, as Michael let him in. "You'll want to see these." In the living room, James spread several documents across the coffee table. "Ryan Mercer isn't just a trainer with sticky fingers. He's got a pattern. 3 different gyms in the past 5 years, all with similar accusations that were settled quietly. Predatory behavior toward clients? Exactly. Always married women with wealthy husbands. Always combined with financial irregularities. James tapped a police report. One husband filed charges 2 years ago, but dropped them when his wife refused to testify. Michael studied the documents with detached interest. Forward these to David. They'll strengthen our position if Laura pursues her lawsuit. Already done. James hesitated. There's one more thing. Ryan's been making threats, telling people he's going to make Barrett pay and expose the truth. What truth would that be? Michael asked dryly. Doesn't matter. It's the threats that concern me. I've arranged additional security monitoring, but you should be aware. Michael nodded. Noted, but I doubt he'll risk further legal exposure. After James left, Michael received a call from Elise at the gym. Mr. Barrett, there's a situation. Ryan showed up demanding to speak with you. When we refused, he caused a scene. Security escorted him out, but he was shouting about having evidence that would destroy you. Did he specify what evidence? No, sir. It seemed like desperation. Maintain the trespass order. If he returns, call the police immediately. 2 weeks passed with similar incidents. Ryan's increasingly erratic behavior, showing up at the gym, sending threatening emails, posting accusations online, only strengthened Michael's legal position. Each outburst was documented, building a case for harassment. Meanwhile, Laura had retreated to her sister's home in Houston, communicating only through her attorney. Her initial demands for financial settlement beyond the prenuptial agreement were systematically dismantled by David's team, using the evidence of her infidelity and the public nature of her actions at Michael's place of business. On a crisp Monday morning, Michael entered the Travis County Courthouse for the first hearing in Laura's lawsuit, claiming emotional distress. He wore a simple charcoal suit, his demeanor calm and professional as he nodded to David waiting on the courthouse steps. She's here with her attorney, David said quietly. They've made a settlement offer, significantly reduced from their initial demands. No settlements, Michael replied. We proceed as planned. Inside the courtroom, Michael saw Laura for the first time since the gym confrontation. She sat beside her attorney, carefully styled and composed, playing the role of the wronged wife despite the evidence. When their eyes met briefly, he saw not remorse, but calculation, a final attempt to extract value from their failed marriage. Judge Eleanor Marshall, a veteran of the family court system, reviewed the documents before her with careful attention. This is an unusual case, she noted. Mrs. Barrett claims emotional distress and public humiliation from the manner in which Mr. Barrett confronted her about an extramarital affair. Mr. Barrett contends his actions were reasonable given the circumstances. Laura's attorney, a sleek woman in her 40s, rose first. Your Honor, my client acknowledges poor judgment in her personal life. However, Mr. Barrett's calculated public exposure constitutes intentional infliction of emotional distress. He deliberately created a spectacle at his own business establishment to maximize humiliation. Judge Marshall turned to David. Yes, Counselor? David stood, his manner measured and precise. Your Honor, Mr. Barrett confronted his wife and her paramour at a location where they chose to conduct their affair, his own business property. The confrontation occurred after documented embezzlement by the paramour was discovered during a routine financial audit. Mr. Barrett's actions were proportional and restrained, involving no violence or excessive language. The judge studied the evidence files. I see documentation of surveillance conducted by a licensed private investigator, financial audit reports, and witness statements from gym employees and members. Yes, Your Honor, David confirmed. We also have multiple instances of Mrs. Barrett mocking her husband and discussing their planned exploitation of his assets, recorded legally in Texas as a one-party consent state. The judge spent several minutes reviewing the recordings and photographs. When she looked up, her expression had hardened. "Mrs. Barrett, your lawsuit claims your husband intentionally caused you emotional distress, yet the evidence clearly shows you chose to conduct an affair at his place of business with an employee who was simultaneously embezzling from that business." She removed her glasses. "The court finds your claim without merit. Case dismissed." Laura's composed facade cracked. "This isn't fair. He deliberately humiliated me in public." "Mrs. Barrett," the judge responded firmly, "you deliberately betrayed your husband in public. He simply ensured there were witnesses to the consequences. This court will not penalize a wronged spouse for refusing to suffer betrayal in silence." Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered, the story of the gym confrontation having gained local notoriety. Michael declined comment, walking steadily to his car while David handled the press with brief, factual statements. As he drove away, Michael felt no triumph, only completion. The legal system had confirmed what he already knew. His response had been proportional and justified. Justice, in its most fundamental form, had been delivered. That evening, alone in his home, Michael received a final text from Laura. "You've destroyed everything. I hope you're satisfied." He considered the irony of her statement before replying simply, "You made your choices. I made mine. Goodbye, Laura." He blocked her number and turned to the blueprints spread across his desk. Plans for transforming the downtown Iron Pulse location into a specialized facility for veterans. Something positive would emerge from the ashes of betrayal. 6 months after the courthouse dismissal, Michael stood in the renovated main floor of Iron Pulse downtown, watching as a group of veterans worked through an adaptive fitness program designed specifically for those with combat-related injuries. The gym had been transformed, not just physically with new equipment and spaces, but in purpose and community. "The 9 a.m. session is at full capacity again," said Jason Miller, a former Army Ranger who now managed the Veterans Program. "Word's spreading fast." "That's good," Michael nodded. "What about the PTSD-specific training certifications for the staff?" 10 more completed last week. We'll have full coverage across all shifts by next month." Michael surveyed the space with quiet satisfaction. After the very public implosion of his marriage and the exposure of Ryan's embezzlement, he had channeled his energy into reimagining the gym's mission. His military background, once kept private, now formed the cornerstone of the business's new identity. Iron Pulse Veterans Fitness Program offered specialized training for former service members dealing with physical injuries, PTSD, and the challenges of civilian reintegration. Michael had hired several veterans as trainers and established scholarship memberships funded through his other business holdings. "How's the new guy doing?" Michael asked, nodding toward a man in his 30s working carefully with a trainer in the corner. "Martinez, making progress. Lost his left leg below the knee in Afghanistan. Wife left him during his 3rd deployment." Jason shook his head. "Said your story gave him hope that there's life after betrayal." Michael hadn't expected to become something of a reluctant role model, but the very public nature of his confrontation with Laura and Ryan had resonated with many who'd faced similar betrayals. The videos had circulated widely enough that new members occasionally recognized him, though most respected his privacy. His phone buzzed with a text from David. "Final divorce decree signed today. All matters concluded." Simple words marking the official end of his marriage to Laura. Michael felt a sense of completion rather than either sadness or triumph. The legal process had dragged on longer than necessary due to Laura's repeated challenges to the prenuptial agreement, but the outcome had never been in doubt, given the evidence. As for Ryan, the last Michael had heard, he had left Austin entirely after criminal charges for the embezzlement were filed by the district attorney. His attempt to start over in Houston had failed when potential employers discovered his history through simple internet searches. The consequences of his actions continued to follow him, as they should. "Mr. Barrett?" A hesitant voice interrupted his thoughts. Michael turned to find a man in his early 60s standing nearby, leaning slightly on a cane. Colonel Westfield. Michael recognized him immediately and extended his hand. "Good to see you, sir." "Retired now, like you." Westfield smiled. "Just Tom these days. Wanted to come by and see what you've built here." "It's impressive." The colonel had been Michael's commanding officer during 2 deployments. His respect meant more than most. "Just trying to create something useful," Michael said. "That's always been your way." Westfield glanced around the gym. "Heard about what happened with your wife. Tough situation, handled with discipline." "The only way I know how, sir." They walked slowly through the facility, Westfield nodding approvingly at the specialized equipment and program schedules. "You know," the older man said finally, "most men in your position would have either exploded in rage or collapsed in despair. You did neither." "Special Forces training has its civilian applications," Michael said with a slight smile. "Indeed." Westfield stopped, turning to face Michael directly. "The discipline to gather intelligence, plan a response, and execute with precision, it's rare. Most people react emotionally and make the situation worse. I had good teachers." Westfield nodded. "What you've built here from that experience, it matters. These men and women need examples of moving forward after setbacks, whether from combat or personal betrayal." After the colonel left, Michael completed his daily circuit of the facility, checking operations and greeting members by name. The anonymity he had once preferred had given way to a more visible leadership style, still quiet and measured, but present. In his office overlooking the main floor, Michael reviewed the expansion plans for bringing the Veterans Program to the other Iron Pulse locations across Texas. The business was thriving, partly due to the publicity from the confrontation, but more significantly because of the meaningful mission it now embodied. A knock at his door revealed Martinez, the new member Jason had mentioned. "Sir," Martinez said, standing straight despite his prosthetic leg, "I wanted to thank you personally for the scholarship program. It's making a real difference for me." "No thanks necessary," Michael replied. "We all need support during rebuilding phases." Martinez hesitated. "The guys told me about what happened with your wife and that trainer, how you handled it. That took strength most people don't have." Michael considered his response carefully. The strongest response to betrayal isn't rage or surrender. It's maintaining your dignity while ensuring appropriate consequences. "I wish I'd understood that when my wife left," Martinez admitted. "I alternated between begging her to come back and threatening her. Neither worked, obviously. Moving forward is the only viable strategy," Michael said. "Backward isn't an option." After Martinez left, Michael stood at his office window, watching the gym members below, a community rebuilding itself one day at a time. The betrayal that had seemed so devastating 6 months ago had ultimately cleared the path for something more meaningful than a marriage built on deception. His phone buzzed with a final text from James Calloway. "Case closed. Moving on to new assignments. You good?" Michael texted back simply, "Better than good? At peace." And he was. The invisible owner had become visible not just to his business, but to himself, stronger for having faced betrayal with dignity and purpose rather than either vengeful rage or passive acceptance. As the afternoon light streamed through the windows, illuminating the veterans working to rebuild their lives below, Michael Barrett recognized that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in avoiding betrayal, but in how you choose to rise above it. Looking back on that morning at Iron Pulse Gym 1 year ago, I realize now that betrayal often reveals more about us than about those who betray us. When Laura and Ryan's deception was laid bare, I had a choice: react with destructive rage, collapse in self-pity, or respond with strategic dignity. 22 years of Special Forces training had prepared me for that moment more than I knew. Many have asked if I regret the public nature of the confrontation. I don't. Sometimes the truth needs witnesses, not for vengeance, but for clarity. When deception has thrived in shadows, only sunlight can truly disinfect. The cameras that recorded that morning didn't capture humiliation. They documented consequences rightfully delivered. The greatest revelation wasn't Laura's infidelity or Ryan's theft. It was discovering that the discipline that had served me in combat would prove equally valuable in civilian crisis. Patience, strategic thinking, and proportional response aren't just military concepts. They're wisdom applicable to our deepest personal wounds. What began as betrayal has transformed into purpose. The veterans who train here daily remind me that rebuilding after devastation, whether from war or personal betrayal, requires the same elements: honesty about what was lost, strategic planning for what comes next, and disciplined execution of the rebuilding process. For those facing similar betrayals, remember this: your response defines you more than the betrayal itself. Rage feels powerful, but builds nothing. Strategic dignity may feel less satisfying in the moment, but creates a foundation for genuine renewal. When someone shows you disrespect, the strongest answer isn't a shouted rebuttal, but a life well lived on your own terms. Share this perspective with someone who needs to remember that experience and patience often triumph over youth and arrogance. True strength isn't measured in sudden outbursts, but in the quiet dignity of measured response, a lesson worth passing on to those still learning life's difficult truths.